Proverbs chapter 16 verse 9. In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisingil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simula, sa langit o baka, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislat ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdilingig. Ang bituin na taro niya kailan pamay di magdidilig. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Igorot, yutang saan, may bulawang may paglubad. Yuta mong nagmadagayaon, mga anak mong mahigugmaon. Di paligon sa bayanihan, iumol sa panagiusap. Sa tinuang may mabiyak at sa pagtinabang ay may kalambuan. Lapang ni oro, bahan di mo nagasidlak, di ka sa mabubuhan. Lapang ni oro, tuburan sa paglao, sa dawangan niyong mauswagon. Ang kaanyag mong makabibihan, talag sa ondas sa kahitasan. Kabukirang sa lumati alimahan, bunga sa kalagayan. Kapag ni oro, yutang saan, may bulawang may paglubad. Yuta mong nagmadagayaon, mga anak mong mahigugmaon. Ipalikod sa bayanihan, iumol sa panaghiusap. Sa tinuang may mabiyak at sa pagpinabangan, may kalambuan. Labang ni oro, kanimong nagamitan, among kabulahanan. Labang ni oro, mapulawanong paraiso, sa naghiusang dabawen yun. Ang kaanyag mo magkabibihan, talag sa ondas sa kahitasan. Kabukirang sa lumati alimahan, bunga sa kalagayan. Labang ni oro, kanimong nagamitan, among kabulahanan. Labang ni oro,
kabataan, pag-asa ng bayan. Mag-aral ng mabuti pagkat ito'y kailangan.
Kinabukasan ay nasa iyong mga kamay. Yaman ng isipan,
Kaalaman ay palaguin dito sa TV Eskwela. Sa pag-aaral sama-sama, hilangin natin ang kakayahan, matuto tumulawa dito sa TV Eskwela.
Bawat pagsisikap nila ay gintong aral.
Bawat pagkatuto, magtatagumpay tayo.
patuloy susulong, kayang-kaya natin to.
Yaman ang isipan,
Kaalaman ay palaguin dito sa TV Eskwela. Sa pag-aaral sama-sama, hinangin natin ang kakayahan, matuto umunawa dito sa TV Eskwela. Dito sa TV Eskwela, sa pag-aaral sama-sama, hinangin natin ang kakayahan, matuto tumunawa dito sa TV Eskwela. Dito sa TV Eskwela, sa pag-aaral sama-sama.
A wonderful day to all, especially to our creative writing students. This is Teacher April Simblante Alcontin from Attorney Orlando S. Rimando National High School, Maco North District. I will be your teacher for SPA Creative Writing Grade 7, and I am so excited to impart new learnings for today. So just be ready, for we are about to discover new knowledge about creative writing subject. So what are you waiting for? Grab your pen and paper and let's get started. Storytelling is common to every culture, since most people enjoy listening to stories. I believe everyone has stories to tell. They may be stories of experiences that the storyteller wants to share with others, or stories of ancestors who lived in different times and places. It is sometimes interesting to observe how stories can change with constant retelling. The basic plot remains the same, but the finer details gradually become more elaborate and exciting, and the characters develop colorful traits they may not have had when the story was first told. A lot of you have probably grown up with your parents reading you books or watching movies with you. Well, chances are, most of what they have read to you were folktale, myth, or legend. Now, do you have any idea about folktale, myth, and legend? How do these words differ from one another? Can you give me some elements of folktale, myth, and legend? Great! Your ideas are great. I am sure that this lesson for today is just easy for you. Creative writing has much to offer. Sometimes it is set to entertain and satisfy our artistic expression. This time around, I'd like to introduce to all our objectives. That at the end of the lesson, you are expected to: first, define what is folktale, myth, and legend. Second, identify the elements of folktale, myth, and legend. And third, appreciate the importance of folktale, myth, and legend. Yes, you have heard it right. Today, we'll be studying the features or elements of folktale, myth, and legend. Now, let's look at what makes something a folktale, myth, and legend. Folktales were passed down from generation to generation by word of mouth, which is called oral tradition. The original author is usually unknown. Because they have been passed from generation to generation, there are often many versions of the same story. Usually, folktales involved animals who find themselves in unreal situations. Now, I will introduce to you some basic features or elements of folktale. First, traditional stories from a specific culture told orally over time. Meaning, they were passed on by the word of mouth. One person told it to another, they told it to another, and on and on. Usually, these stories were told by the elders of the culture and passed on to the younger generations in order to pass on the culture, their values, their stories, right to preserve the culture. Different cultures have different versions of the same story. Make sure you have this part underlined in your notes because this is kind of the main characteristic of a folktale. Another is the rule of three. Items happen in sets of threes or sevens, like the three characters, three events, three tests that the character must overcome. For example, Jack and the Beanstalk showed Jack climbing the beanstalk 3 times. The wicked stepmother visited Snow White in the forest 3 times before she finally got her to eat the apple, just like that. And of course, folktale contains morals or lessons. The purpose of these stories is to pass on the morals and the values of a culture, and that's what the story is focused on. Another is characters are animals that act like humans, so animals that actually talk. A lot of times, they have animal characters that display human characteristics, and this is called personification. Depending on the culture and the region that they lived, those are the animals that were used in the story. Whatever animals were around them are the ones that they in turn used in the stories that they told. And for the setting, it is usually described easily and briefly, leaving the imagination to fill in the gaps. For example, folk tales take place in a cottage in the woods or in a magical kingdom, and the time is fantasy time, such as once upon a time or a long time ago. Folktale usually have themes of good versus evil. It is usually obvious in the story who the good characters are and who the bad characters are. Again, because the good ones have those kinds of characteristics that the culture values. A lot of them have happy endings. Since good is rewarded and evil is punished in the end, then tales have a happy ending. Example of folktale is The Turtle and the Monkey, or in Tagalog, Ang Pagong at Ang Matsing. This well-known folktale was first documented and illustrated by national hero Dr. Jose P. Rizal, a pioneer folklorist and anthropologist in 1886. Now, let us watch this video, The Story of the Turtle and the Monkey.
One day, Pagong the turtle and Maching the monkey were walking by the river. Then Maching saw a floating banana tree.
Look, a banana tree! Let's go get it, Pagong!
Since Maching was the one that saw the tree first, Maching insisted that he will take home the trunk that already had some leaves, thinking that it will soon bear fruit, while Pagong, he was given the part with the roots. They parted ways and planted the banana trees that they owned. Pagong planted his near the riverbank, while Maching planted his in the woods. Every day, they watered the plants. Days went by. Maching's plant died. The leaves withered and the trunk decayed. Meanwhile, Pagong's plant slowly grew leaves and grew even bigger until it bore fruit. Maching came to Pagong and he wept.
Pagong, my plant died.
Pagong kindly answered, "Oh, poor Maching, don't be sad. Look at my plant. It has become a fruitful banana tree. If you help me gather the fruit, I will share my harvest with you."
Wow, really? Let me climb the tree for you then.
Maching answered excitedly. Once Maching reached the top of the tree, he greedily ate all of the bananas. Pagong shouted, "Hey, Maching, give me some." The naughty Maching answered,
No chance! It is all mine now!
Pagong was so angry, he began to stick many thorns on the tree trunk. After Maching felt full, Maching went down the tree. Not long after, he screamed in pain.
Ouch! Ouch! There are so many thorns! Pagong, you will pay for this!
Maching sat on the top of a coconut shell to remove the thorns. Then, the next thing he knew, Pagong bit his tail. Then Pagong hid under the coconut shell. In a rage, Maching lifted the coconut shell.
You will pay for what you have done to me! I will cook you now!
Pagong acted cool. Sounds like a plan. When you cook me, I will turn red and be more attractive.
Maching replied, "Ha! I know! What about if I just throw you in the river and let you drown there?"
Pagong pretended to be scared. "No, not the river. Please, I will drown there." Maching threw Pagong into the river with vengeance. Once Pagong hit the water, he laughed. "Maching, you slow-minded. Did you not know I live in water?" Maching scratched his head in confusion and immediately regretted all of his actions.
The setting or the story happened one day in broad daylight in most likely a forest setting. The characters are animals. They are the turtle and the monkey who act like humans. This story contains moral lesson, which is that you are not greedy. Don't be greedy. Better to give than to retrieve. We need to share what we have with others, and God will bless us more. Do not be egotistical. So, that was an example of folktale. Next, we have myth. These are stories that attempt to explain why and how the world is the way it is. Every culture has its own myths and legends. Basic features or elements of myths. First, the universe and mankind. The subject of myths are usually the universe and mankind. and the main characters are often non-human. The main characters are gods, goddesses, or other superhuman heroes. They usually have these superhuman people, these gods and goddesses, that the story revolves around. It explains the world and beliefs or natural occurrences. The purpose of myth is to explain timeless questions like who made the world or who created the world, who were the first humans, and what happens when we die. And the natural occurrences are usually due to the actions of these gods and goddesses that the story revolves around. Of course, it has magic. It also has magical elements. Okay, now, let's watch a video about Igorot story of creation as an example of myth.
Igorot story of creation. In the beginning, there were no people on earth. Lumawig, the great spirit, came down from the sky and cut many reeds. He divided these into pairs, which he placed in different parts of the world. And then he said to them, "You must speak." Immediately, the reeds became people. And in each place was a man and a woman who could talk, but the language of each couple differed from that of others. Then Lumawig commanded each man and woman to marry, which they did. By and by, there were many children, all speaking the same language as their parents. These, in turn, married and had many children. In this way, there came to be many people on earth. Now, Lumawig saw that there were several things which the people on earth needed to use. So he set to work to supply them. He created salt and told the inhabitants of one place to boil it down and sell it to their neighbors. But these people could not understand the directions of the Great Spirit. And the next time he visited them, they had not touched the salt. Then he took it away from them and gave it to the people of a place called Mayinit. These did as he directed, and because of this, he told them that they should always be owners of the salt, and that the other peoples must buy of them. Then Lumawig went to the people of Bontop and told them to get clay and make pots. They got the clay, but they did not understand the molding, and the jars were not well shaped. Because of their failure, Lumawig told them that they would always have to buy their jars, and he removed the pottery to Samoki. When he told the people there what to do, they did just as he said, and their jars were well shaped and beautiful. Then the Great Spirit saw that they were fit owners of the pottery, and he told them that they should always make many jars to sell. In his way, Lumawig taught the people and brought to them all the things which they now have.
How did Lumawig created a man and a woman? Lumawig is the greatest of all spirits. Descending from the sky, he cut up reeds into pairs and placed them in various places of the world. He created the Igorot and takes great interest in them. He taught them how to overcome the forces in nature, how to plant and reap. In fact, he taught them everything they know. And that was an example of myth, a story that explains timeless questions like who created the world, who were the first humans, and the main characters are gods and goddesses. Let's move on to legend. Legends are usually about heroes and their daring adventures. The heroes are admired for their bravado, strength, wit, and most importantly, their sense of justice. The following are some of the basic features or elements of legend. Traditional tales from a specific culture told orally over time. Told is a matter of historical fact. So people tell like, yes, this actually happened, but cannot be verified. Believed to be true by the culture from which it originated. But again, it can't be checked. Usually, these are very old stories, so a lot of times, actual records of these people don't exist. They have heroes who perform great deeds with strength and intelligence. Make sure you have this part underlined because that's one of the biggest defining characteristics of a legend. These heroes have these values. The strengths are something that the culture deems as important. That is why that story revolves around that. Sometimes, the hero's exploit are exaggerated to make the story more interesting or convincing. Explaining how something came to be. It explains why something is the way it is, and that's usually something in nature that the story explains how it came to be. Example of legends. Why does fish have scales? The girl who turned into a fish. This classic legend tells a story of a girl who turned into a fish. Furthermore, this also contains other classic Philippine legends based on watery tales. The story of the piña. This Philippine legend tells the story of how the pineapple fruit got so many eyes. Another example of legend is Robin Hood. He is an outlaw who fights against the evil King John. Robin Hood and his men rob the rich and give to the poor. Alright, those were the famous examples of legend. Hooray! What an amazing learning we have for today about folktale, myth, and legend with their features or elements. Now, it's time to know whether you have learned something on the presentation. It's assessment time. Before we start, please get a notebook or a paper and a ball pen for you to answer the questions that I will be asking you. I will read each question twice, so listen carefully, okay? Choose the letter of the best answer. Write the chosen letter on the separate sheet of paper. Number 1. These are stories that attempt to explain why and how the world is the way it is. Again, these are stories that attempt to explain why and how the world is the way it is. A. Folktale. B. Myth. C. Legend. D. Fairy tale. Are you done? That's right. The answer is letter B, myth. Number 2. Which is not a feature or element of a folktale? Again, which is not a feature or element of a folktale? A. Characters are animals that act like humans, so animals that talk. B. Usually have themes of good versus evil. C. A lot of them have happy endings. D. Explaining how something came to be. Are you finished? You are really awesome. Yes, you are right. The answer is letter D, explaining how something came to be. Number 3, they have heroes who perform great deeds with strength and intelligence. Again, they have heroes who perform great deeds with strength and intelligence. A. Folktale. B. Myth. C. Legend, D. Fairy tale. I am sure that this question is just easy for you. You're brilliant. The answer is letter C, legend. Number 4. Main characters are gods and goddesses or other superhuman heroes. Again, the main characters are gods and goddesses or other superhuman heroes. A. Folktale, B. Myth, C. Legend, D. Fairy tale. Are you through? You are really incredible. The answer is letter B, myth. And the last question. These stories are usually about heroes and their daring adventures. The heroes are admired for their bravado, strength, wit, and most importantly, their sense of justice. Again, these stories are usually about heroes and their daring adventures. The heroes are admired for their bravado, strength, wit, and most importantly, their sense of justice. A. Folktale, B. Myth, C. Legend, D. Fairy tale. Finished? You've got it right. You are genius. The answer is letter C, legend. Great job! We're already done with our assessment. It seems that you have really learned a lot from our lesson. For today's lesson, we have learned the features or elements of folktale, myths, and legends. Students, I would like you to remember that these stories became part of our tradition and culture. As such, we need to respect, care for, and give importance to these stories. With this in mind, the best thing we could do to preserve these stories is to pass them on to future generations. That's it for our lesson for today about the features or elements of folktale, myths, and legend. I hope that you have learned a lot and you will be able to share your learnings to others. Have a great day, everyone, and keep safe. This has been your teacher, Teacher April Semblante Alcontin of Attorney Orlando S. Rimando National High School, Maco North District. Saying, dito sa TV Eskwela, sa pag-aaral, sama-sama. Bye-bye!
Davao de Oro TV Eskwela would like to thank the following stakeholders. Provincial Government of Davao de Oro, headed by Governor J.V. Tyrone L. Uy, Vice Governor Maria Carmen S. Zamora, First District Representative Manuel E. Zamora, Second District Representative Ruel Peter S. Gonzaga, Servicio Oro Mismo, SOM Program Director Fe Maestre, SOM Executive Producer Alfonso Jun Tabas, SOM Technical Director Charleston L. Arcales, SOM Program Coordinator Ray M. Antibo, Private Secretary 1 Brian B. Jimenez, and the Bunturan Cable TV Network, Mr. Jinal B. Uy, Procreator.
Good day, grade 7 learners. This is TV Eskwela, brought to you by DepEd Davao de Oro, committed to bringing you quality education in the new normal setting. I am Teacher Faith Vertucio Fonestier from Nabunturan National Comprehensive High School, Nabunturan West District, your learning companion for English 7, Quarter 3, Module 2. How are you today? Great! Are you ready for today's session? That's fantastic! But before we head on to our topic, I want you to get your necessary things such as your ball pen, your self-learning module for week 2, notebook for your note-taking, and your dictionary. Are you ready? I can virtually sense the excitement in you. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. I have here pictures. Which among the pictures means come here? Very good. How about I don't know? You are correct. How about good? Splendid. These are some of the common gestures we usually use in oral communication. Do you know that there are appropriate gestures or behaviors that we should use in talking to other people personally or in giving public speeches or instructions? You heard it right. And today, I will help you discover those because our topic for this episode is using appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior. After going through our Week 2 module, you are expected to number one, identify the appropriate stance and behavior in delivering a message. And number 2, use appropriate stance and behavior in making a reaction video. But before we head on to our lesson proper, I want you to look at your scores obtained from the pre-test found in pages 1 to 2 of your Week 2 self-learning module entitled Let Us Try. Do not worry, because this test will not be recorded. This is to test your stored knowledge about our topic. However, you are reminded to be honest in answering and checking your answer, because as always, honesty is the best policy. How did it go? What's your score? If you got the perfect score of 4, that indicates that you master your skills in identifying the appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior. If you got 2 to 3, that indicates that you need to learn more in mastering your skills in identifying the appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior. If you got 0 to 1, that means you need to watch today's lesson attentively in order to improve your knowledge about identifying the appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior. Now, let us proceed. Please flip through page 2 of your self-learning module. Let us study. I want you to read the text entitled Everyday Heroes and find out who the heroes are and what gestures you make in connection to them. After which, you are to write your responses in the table found on page 3. Please read along with me. Everyday heroes. Traffic jams bring about everyday heroes. When traffic enforcers go missing and intersections come at a bind, there is usually that one, raise pointer finger, man who steps out of his car and begins navigating traffic. He may be in a suit. Raise both hands at chest level, then slowly bring them down to hips. Sometimes he's a bystander, raise one hand, palm up, in rags who steps in to unclog the streets, then goes about his merry way once the knots are undone. There's the taxi driver, extend arm, palm up, and point to the window, who sees us struggling with a stalled car. Without hesitation, shake head, he helps us out with our engine and brings our car back to life. No, raise pointer finger and move from side to side. Payment is required and he even refuses it. We drive away, thankful for the kindness of strangers, and resolve, straighten back, to pay it forward. The task that you have just accomplished exposed you to some common gestures and proper postures which help people understand better the message that someone is delivering. Now that you already have a grasp about common gestures and stance, you are to undergo a series of activities that will help you improve your speaking skills, and you will discover more about delivering messages or giving information properly. Appropriate oral language stance and behavior makes all the difference between a boring conversation and an engaging one. It influences the meaning of a speaker's message. According to Smith in 2019, stance can be defined as the attitude that the writer has towards the topic of his or her message. The stance that you take will greatly determine the tone of your message and the words that you choose. Oral language stance and behavior can be broken down into 5 categories. 1. Facial expressions. 2. Eye contact. 3. Posture. 4. Gestures. And 5. Position and movement. Let us talk about facial expressions first. According to Frank in 2012, facial expressions are primary means of conveying messages between humans. It is responsible for communicating not only thoughts or ideas, but also emotions. The most important thing to consider when using facial expression in giving information is to make sure that you use your face at all. Do not give a blank face to your audience. Open your eyes wider, raise your eyebrows a little, and remember to smile often. If your facial expressions are in line with the tone of your words, then the information you are presenting will be clearer and engaging. Next, let us proceed with the eye contact. It is believed that the eyes are the windows to a person's soul. And according to Wyatt in 2014, eye contact is the most powerful means of communicating confidence and conviction. The strategic eye contact has the power to change how people think of you. There are 3 general tips in using eye contact appropriately. Number 1, have eye contact with everyone in the audience. Number 2, show your audience that you are not afraid to make eye contact. Number 3, avoid staring at someone by keeping your gazes moving. And those are the simple tips of how to use your eyes in oral communication. Let us move on with posture. What is posture? Posture is defined as the attitude assumed by the body to maintain stability. Proper posture plays a huge part in so many ways. It helps you to stay calm, look confident, and breathe easily. Here are some tips in using posture in speaking. Number 1, heads up and don't slouch. Number 2, Feel relaxed during presentation. Number 3, adapt your posture according to your audience. And 4, have an open and communicative posture. This time, let us go ahead and talk about gestures. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, gestures mean the movement of the body that expresses an idea. Gestures are like happy medium of transferring messages. Common gestures include waving, pointing, and using fingers to indicate numeric amounts. Here are some tips in using gestures in communication. Number 1, be fluid or smooth in using hand gestures. Number 2, use gestures purposefully in explaining important points. Number 3, your gestures should look relaxed and natural. Finally, let us proceed to the last category of oral language stance, the position and movement. According to Dlugon, in 2018, it is the largest physical movement that you can make. It draws attention to the most important parts of your speech. Purposeful body movement complements your message and adds authenticity to your overall delivery. Here are some benefits of using proper position and movement when speaking. Number 1, it reinforces your message. Number 2, it increases your ability to connect with your audience. Number 3, it gets the attention of your audience. Number 4, it drives away nervousness. And number 5, it keeps your energy and enthusiasm. Now here are the body movement to avoid. Number 1, hands on hips. Number 2, hands on chin. Number 3, crossing your arms. Number 4, swaying back and forth. Number 5, tripping over. Moreover, here are the appropriate body movement and position. Stand firm. Lean forward when delivering important lines. Pivot your body to indicate conversation. And those are the 5 different categories of oral language stance. We have facial expressions, eye contact, posture, gestures, position, and movement. This time, let us put your understanding of the discussion into test. Please flip through page 6 of your module for our next activity. In this task, you are to read the list of some examples of postures and bodily gestures that influence how your listeners understand your message when you are speaking. Number 1, stand with confidence. Number 2, crossing your arms. Number 3, hands in your pocket. Number 4, face your audience with your hands on the side with your chin up. Number 5, 2 hands cupped in front of your chest. Number 6, hand on chin. Number 7, hands on hips. Number 8, use your hands to emphasize or reinforce your message when speaking. Number 9, stand firm. Number 10, lean forward when delivering important lines. After which, Try to distinguish the appropriate behavior from the non-appropriate stance by completing the matrix that follows. After accomplishing the task, let us crystallize your learning by answering the next activity. Let us practice more on page 7. Here is what you are going to do. In column A are the list of most effective gestures that emphasize and reinforce your message when speaking. Try to analyze each and match them with their meaning in column B. Column A. Number 1. Clapping your hands to make your audience also clap. Number 2. Acting as if you are falling to describe that you fell face first into the water. Number 3. Shrugging the shoulders to show that you don't know. Number 4. Shaking your fist to show you are serious. Making an okay or victory sign with your fingers. Column B. Letter A. Emphasize the point you are making. Letter B. Suggest something. Letter C. Describe. Letter D. Prompt. After answering this task, I want you to put into words your learning about our topic. Please look at the next task on pages 7 to 8. Let us remember. Directions. Write down what you have learned in this lesson by supplementing the necessary information needed. Question number 1. What are the elements of oral language, stance, and behavior? Again, what are the elements of oral language, stance, and behavior? Question number 2. What is the importance of using appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior in delivering information? Again, what is the importance of using appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior in delivering information? Finally, let us assess your learning by answering this 5-item test. Please continue on page 8. Let us assess. Directions. Choose the letter of the correct answer. Number 1. This refers to the most powerful means of communicating confidence and conviction. Again, this refers to the most powerful means of communicating confidence and conviction. Letter A. Posture. Letter B. Eye contact. Letter C. Body movement. Number 2. The attitude assumed by the body to maintain stability is called. Again, the attitude assumed by the body to maintain stability is called. Letter A. Posture. Letter B. Eye contact. Letter C. Body movement. Number 3. Which of the following is or are primary means of conveying messages between humans? Again, which of the following is or are primary means of conveying messages between humans? Letter A. Posture. Letter B. Eye contact. Letter C. Facial expressions. Number 4. Which of the following is not an appropriate body movement and position? Again, which of the following is not an appropriate body movement and position? Letter A. Stand firm. Letter B. Lean forward when delivering important lines. Letter C. Swaying back and forth. Number 5. The following are body movements to avoid, except. Again, the following are body movements to avoid, except. Letter A. Hands on hips. Letter B. Hands on chin. Letter C. Stand firm. I hope you got all the correct answers in our assessment. You may peek through the answer keys on page 10 for the checking of your answers, as well as for some of the activities you have undertaken in this module. This time, let us go ahead to our enhancement activity. Please continue on page 8. Let us enhance. Directions for activity 1. Watch viral news on TV. Share your observations on the reporter's postures and bodily gestures. Explain the effects of such actions on understanding the speaker's message. Directions for activity 2. Make a reaction video to the viral news that you have watched. Make sure to use appropriate oral language, stance, and behavior. Please be guided by the following criteria for evaluation. Clarity of voice, articulation and pronunciation, 5 points. Facial expression, 5 points. Posture, 5 points. Screen presence, confidence and conviction, 5 points. Position and body movement, 5 points. Total, 25 points. To finally finish this module, you are to answer the last task. Let us reflect on page 9. Directions. Write a simple journal or reflection on your journey through this lesson by completing the blank space provided. And this covers our English 7 Quarter 3 Module 2. Class on the air today. If you encounter any difficulty in answering the task in this module, do not hesitate to consult your teacher or facilitator. Always keep in mind that you are not alone. We hope that through this material, you will experience meaningful learning and gain deep understanding of the relevant competencies. You can do it! This has been Teacher Faith Vertucio Fonashir from Nabunturan National Comprehensive High School, Nabunturan West District. See you next episode, and remember, dito sa TV Eskwela, sa pag-aaral, sama-sama. Bye-bye!